Okay, welcome to the 98% podcast where we hear real stories from real people. And I am here with Ricky. So, Ricky, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey guys, what's up? My name is Ricky Johnson. I am 45. I'll be 46 in December. Uh, Throughout the podcast, we're going to cover a lot about who I am, what brought me here, and where I've been. But just to give you a quick backstory of me, I'm a 5-year Marine veteran. I was a 1391 bulk fuel specialist. That's a fancy way of saying that I pump gas in the Marine Corps. Uh, I never was deployed, never saw combat. The most intense battles that I fought were with myself. And like I said, we'll discuss that more in depth as we go. Besides being a 5-year Marine veteran, I'm also a 3-time convicted felon for methamphetamines and DWIs. Spent some time in prison, 5 years of felony probation, and we'll discuss that more in depth also as we go along. Right now, I am a public speaker. I travel throughout the country speaking in prisons, jails, high schools, conferences. There's probably not an environment that I've not gone into or I won't go into. The way that I choose to look at it is, I'm willing to risk embarrassment and humiliation in front of a group of people to inspire just one person, but also to gain confidence as well. The biggest risk would have been for me is if I'd have never risked it at all. If you'd have told me 6 years ago or 7 years ago that I'd be doing this podcast or public speaking professionally, I'd have been like, there's no way. But, you know, God had a plan for my life and I just kept pursuing where I felt like I was being called. What I always tell people is, with me with public speaking, I'm not the greatest public speaker, and I've given close to, over 500 sessions in more than 400 different venues. I don't always get it right. I still stutter, talk fast, forget what I'm trying to say. But I'm going to show up. I've never canceled one session. And, when I felt called to do this, I was like, why? I was asking God, why are you calling me to do this? But what I always tell people is, whatever you fear the most, when you overcome that, that's going to become your greatest strength. And, ultimately that's what, public speaking and serving other people has been for me. And, Ricky, you're welcome to ask me any questions that you have throughout this podcast. You're not going to offend me at all. I encourage you to do so.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's why I had you on here. You got a powerful story, and I don't know a whole lot about it yet, but I know enough. So I'm really
Yep.
excited to dig into this.
Yep.
And also, I just found out. So both of our names are Ricky, which I think's
Yeah.
funny in general. But
Yeah.
two, I was born in December also.
Okay.
I didn't know
Awesome.
you were born in December.
Yep. December 5th.
Okay, I'm the 19th, so
Okay.
we're not quite there yet. But if we were spot on, I would be really confused.
Yep.
Okay. So just for the audience out there, just to let them know if this is their first one they're tuning into. So how this works is, we have the guest on, I give them some questions, and all we do is we go through the questions one at a time and we just answer it. And the goal is for hopefully you all in the audience to connect with the speaker and hopefully find out that maybe anything that you're going through, you are not alone.
So Ricky, before we begin also,
Yeah.
and I share this when I give presentations and speak, I'm a very transparent guy, but respectfully in bounds. The reason I'm so transparent is because I believe that connection saves lives, and love isn't lies. I want other people to see, if something I mention, a lot, isolation can be a very dangerous place to be. So the reason I'm so open and transparent about my life and who I am, so other people can see, like, hey, he's been through it as well. I'm not alone. So we're going to have a good podcast, a good discussion, and we're going to talk about some heavy stuff today. So thank you for having me on.
Okay. You are welcome. Okay. So we'll start with the first one, which is just how do you know me?
Oh, I've been waiting on this question and I'm looking forward to answering this.
Yeah.
So, my wife and I moved to Lake Ozark. It's been, I think, 7, 8 years ago, approximately. I can't remember the exact time, but anyway, my wife took a job for an organization. In Lake Ozark. My wife's she's an LCSW. She's a clinician. Well, we were new to the area, and we go to this gym called Fit Physique that was owned by Rick Streb, and I didn't know I knew not one person in this area, and we go to this gym, and prior to moving to Lake Ozark, at the other gyms that I've gone to, I kind of thought I was the man. I benched like 315. I thought that was pretty good. I had an ego. Well, I go to this gym and I saw this massive guy, which ended up being your dad, and he was one of the biggest people that I'd ever seen, strongest as well by far, and he was just real quiet, and I prejudged him bad. I was like, we left the gym that night, and my wife's like, "What do you think about the gym?" And I said the gym's nice. I said, but that big guy's a jerk. I said, called him another word. And he wasn't he wasn't that at all. He was just quiet, and I was
Yeah.
intimidated and insecure, and I judged him for it. Well, this is how God humbled me. The next night we're at the gym, and your dad he walks up and introduces himself to me. He's like, "Hey, buddy," he said, "Do you have a church to go to?" And I said, "No, I don't." And I felt about that tall because I prejudged him. So I judged him bad. But
Yeah.
I ended up we laugh about it now, but ultimately that's how I met you through your dad. And your dad, when I went, like I said, when I got to Lake Ozark, I had a terrible work history. I had no driver's license. I'm a convicted felon, so employment was not something that was easy to find for me. And ultimately, your dad offered me a job helping him pour concrete, and I had no experience at all uh, pouring concrete. And your dad was and still is. He was you know, a a father figure to me. Just treated me well, and I have a lot of respect for him, and I look up to him, and ultimately I met you through your dad, so that's how that happened. I've been waiting to answer that question for a week, man.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, he's it's funny how we do that, how we do prejudge people. And I love that you're really transparent about it because I think that's stuff we keep in here and we
Oh
don't
yeah.
think about it and we don't verbalize it, but we all do it.
Oh,
We all do it.
I'm still guilty of it. I mean, I
Yeah.
know better than to do. It's like a defense mechanism, but also fear. It's like discernment. And I always
Hmm.
tell people like I don't always hit the mark. I'm still guilty of judging a book by its cover and being way. I have it happen all the time, and I know better, but I'm human, so yeah.
Yeah. I like that. Okay. Cool. So what we'll do is we'll start at the beginning now.
Okay.
So what was growing up like for you?
Yeah, Ricky. So I come from a small town in southeast Missouri called East Prairie. The population is about 3,500, roughly 3,500. Growing up in high school, I was athletic. I made good grades. I think I was pretty well liked by my peers. The summer before my senior year, my son was born. I was a boy having a baby. Thought I was a man, and I had no clue as to how to raise a child or be a father. And I ended up joining the Marine Corps at the age of 19. I come from a good family. Excuse me. My parents were, they're, middle class, hardworking people. Um, Part of my story is my biological father. He was a chronic alcoholic my whole life. I never knew him to be sober. He worked hard, but he was just absent. I was raised by my stepdad, and my biological father passed at the age of 52 or 53. I can't remember exactly. Same situation for my mother. My mom was a good woman, but she too struggled with alcoholism her entire life. I think a lot of what contributed to her trauma and alcoholism was she was violated sexually as a child by somebody that was very close to her and her family. She didn't talk a lot about it, and I didn't find out about this until later on in life. But like I said, she died. She died at the age of 49. She was pretty young, and I was a mama's boy. My mother's death, it devastated me. Because like I said, she my mom was always there to rescue me, pick me up, save me when I needed it, and that probably contributed to a lot of who I became as well. Just never having to pick myself up. But overall, I didn't come from how do I say this? I take that back. There was a lot of dysfunction on both sides of my family. A lot of sexual trauma, a lot of substance use and alcoholism. Um, Another piece of my story was I was also molested as a kid as well. I was violated sexually by a family member. I think I was like between 7 and 9. That had a huge impact on my life. I still struggle with it. At the time it happened, it was just I was never forced to do anything, but it was just one of those situations where other people were doing it, and I was caught in the mix. And Like I said, that had a tremendous impact on my life as well. I can't sit back. I'm not gonna. The thing about me, Ricky, is I'm a very I'm not a self pity individual. I don't go around
Mm-hmm.
blaming God or blaming my parents or saying why me. When I got old enough to know right from wrong, did those things influence me and impact my life? Yes, but I take responsibility for the choices that I made, as well. Um, I was exposed to substance use as a young kid, probably 4 and 5. I was raised in the bars with my dad, my real dad. My
Mm.
dad was that was what a lot of my family did. So they let me taste alcohol as a young kid, taste beer, and that impacted my life, and I aspired to be just like them. I liked that taste of it. They didn't know at that time, but they were creating a monster with me. And like I said, I don't blame them, but that stuff did influence to who I was, influence who I was to become. What I always tell people is, whatever you see and hear the most frequently, that's going to become your frequency. So, it's kind of like, whatever you take in is going to come, whatever you see and hear is going to come out in your behaviors most of the time.
Yeah. What's so interesting about that is there's this quote that I heard that I reference all the time is they say you end up being the sum of your five closest people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of an interesting to think about because I think we think we're more resilient than we are. And then, you think about your group of people, it's just too easy. And I think we're kind of wired to just be influenced by the people around us. So you need to
Sure.
choose your people wisely.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I talk about that even as far as what you entertain yourself with, the music,
Hmm.
move, all those things. And I'll get to my son later on, but I'm very
Yeah.
mindful of what I let in my life because of that.
Yeah. So then how do you think, so dealing with those experiences, just thinking about other people that might have gone through some of this that are on the call, because
Mhm.
I've actually had someone on the call that went through a similar situation. So how do you feel like that's affected you now, or how did you overcome some of those things?
All those things, how did it affect me?
Yeah.
Um, I didn't realize how much it was affecting me until I got older, like in my probably when I met my wife. Honestly, um, I just thought I thought that I was just a dysfunctional person.
Mm.
And substance use was my way out. Drinking,
Hmm.
narcotics, pills, or whatever I could find.
Yeah.
Promiscuity. Um, I was an insecure man for a long time. And I sought out instant gratification to make me feel better. I didn't know how to be a man. I learned to be a man through my wife. And it affected me in relationships. I probably have PTSD from sex. I also experienced sexual trauma in the military, and I talk about that
Mm.
publicly as well. So I had it happen to me as a kid, then as an adult at 21 years old. And I'll get more in depth with your
Yeah.
question, but at 21, while I was in the Marine Corps, I was new to the area. I was working security at a bar. I got invited to an after party, and I didn't know. I was very naive, and I go to this after party. I got extremely intoxicated, and while I was incoherent, I was awakened by another man who was trying to perform a sex act on me. You can do the
Mm.
math.
Yeah.
While I was incoherent, I was awakened to that. Um, that messed me. I'm still traumatized by it. This is at 21 years old, and I didn't tell anybody about that until I was, you know, almost 30. And
Mm.
I go to I've gone to the VA for that, and I've, therapy and all and everything you could think of, but that had a tremendous impact on me as well. And as far as me getting over it, what I always tell people is you can't overcome what you continue to run from. Doing
Mm.
stuff like this, serving other people, being open about what's happened to me, it gave me without the pain, I wouldn't have a purpose. Does that make it easier? Not necessarily. But what I always say to people is when I choose serving you over me, I'm free from my own mind by becoming the source that I seek. Okay. And so what that
Hmm.
means is, you know, from the outside looking in, people's going to view me as a physically, mentally, and spiritually strong person. Okay.
Hmm.
I'm not the kind of person they're going to come up to and say, here, Ricky, here's some love, compassion, some empathy, patience, all the things I may be needing. I know this. I know that that's not going to happen. So what I do is I give that to other people by serving them. By me serving people or talking publicly about what I've gone through, I gain peace and strength through that. and I gained connection.
Mhm.
So that's been very healing for me, is to serve people above myself.
I like
There's
that. Yeah, that's
and, Rick,
powerful.
and Ricky, there's not a blueprint to this. There's not a one
Mhm.
size fits all approach
Yeah.
to overcoming, or I don't want to say overcoming trauma,
Yeah.
but just dealing with it. It never goes away.
Yeah. No, I believe that. And I like that you said that too, is I think, yeah, you have two options. You run from it or you face it. And it's like one of them, right? Facing it is the harder road for sure. But also at the end of it, you actually have somewhat of control over it rather
Absolutely.
than continuing to run from it. Maybe it'll be easier in the short term, but to your point, right? You said it showed up in relationships and other things like that. You'd never know how it's going to show up.
Yeah. I mean, like with, um, you know, it, here's some examples with sexual
Yeah.
trauma. Going into a men's locker room in the gym, I'm a modest guy. Okay. Like, so when I walk
Hmm.
into a locker room, to see any kind of nudity of a man, it's like I'm walking through a minefield. Okay. I'm
Mm,
putting my head down and just, it still bothers me. Using, if I have the option to use a urinal or a stall, I'm always going to use the stall. I don't like my back
mm,
turned when just anything that I'm always mindful of where I'm at, who's around me. I'm probably hyper vigilant at times, and there's times and Ricky, I'm probably also guilty of having distorted thoughts as well.
mhm,
Creating just based on my past, I may create these scenarios in my mind that aren't reality, and I've probably sabotaged relationships because of that with friends and other people. I'm aware of this. Good people.
mhm.
What it is if I start seeing red flags in someone that um, from situations in my past, if I see those red flags, I tend to disconnect, and it may
Mm.
or may not be reality. So that's been a problem for me as well.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense though. I
Yeah.
mean, given that circumstance, I mean, if there is a threat, it makes sense to like for your safety, right? Like it's a safety
Yes.
mechanism. Like, oh, I'm just going to withdraw. No,
Yeah.
no need to get into
Yeah.
that
And
again.
I'm not
Yeah.
malicious. I'm not malicious about it.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Yeah.
you know, my circle is really small. Just put it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Okay. So next question. So, what is the biggest struggle that you've made it through?
Oh wow. I can't really put a. I can't really rate it.
Mhm,
But like I've mentioned, I've been incarcerated. It wasn't a long stretch. I've done time in county jails and also a short amount of time in prison. I've been on I was on felony probation for 5 years. Excuse me. Um, a big part of my story is I lost my son to suicide in 2015. That's I don't want to say overcoming that,
mhm,
but dealing with that has probably been the most intense battle of my life. I spent 10 years in and out of active addiction. That's something that never goes away for me. I mean, it's always going to be
mhm,
there. So I always have to stay on top of that. The most recent thing for me was, like I said, I'm a 3-time convicted felon for methamphetamines and DWIs. I've in my past, I've had 3 DWIs. In my last DWI, I lost my license for 12 years consecutively. I
mhm,
lost them for 10, but it took me another 2 years to get, there was a lot of red tape and barriers within the system. And it took me 2 years to get where I could legally drive again. So I got my license back about 6 months ago. Um,
mhm.
over, overcoming that, facing those obstacles and barriers to get my license back, that was probably one of the biggest accomplishments of my life, just because of what I sacrificed along the way. Not having any independence, having to depend on everybody, for transportation. Um, it puts, as I'm speaking as a man, to be that dependent on other people. It was just a miserable, brutal process that I'm glad's over. So that was a huge accomplishment for me.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So yeah, it's funny because everybody these days, I mean, you drive everywhere and we kind of take that for granted. So I can't imagine how it feels to actually not be able to do it.
Oh
Yeah.
man, it was just basic stuff, man. I mean, like, the big thing for me was like when I started public speaking and traveling, specifically going to Southeast Missouri where I'm from. Say if I had 10 sessions throughout the week in Southeast Missouri, I had to coordinate transportation to everywhere I went, and I had to have like a plan A, B, and C because if somebody didn't show up or for whatever reason, it was just, that was the biggest stress for me when I travel and speak. So now that I can drive and I don't have to depend on anyone, I can, I'm in control of me. And Ricky, the thing with me is like what I always tell people is success teaches isolation. Okay, and what that means is people's going to come and go in your life. I'm so used to being alone for the past 10 to 12 years, other than being with my wife. I've been by myself for the most part. Through that process, I had to learn to enjoy my own company. I kind of, and I prefer it at times because I know what I'm getting out of me and I trust myself. So to be able to drive again, that's a huge relief for me. And just in a lot of different areas.
Yeah. No, I can't imagine the freedom you must feel now.
Yeah. I,
Yeah.
the day that, I cried the day that I got my license, man. It was just, just not, wasn't, I just teared up because I'm like, man, I've been
Mhm.
waiting for 12 years for this. And,
Yeah.
it just, there was many days I got a case of the efforts. I was done. I was done messing with it, but I just kept pushing forward.
Yeah. No, I love that you did. I mean, that's the thing is it sounds like with all this, it sounds like there was some form of perseverance, resilience in a lot of these stories.
Yeah.
So yeah. So real quick, you so first of all, I can't even imagine what it would be like to lose a child. And listening to some of the stuff, like it sounds like you've had hardships, you've had some
Mhm.
struggles. So I mean, when was the moment where you felt like you had to persevere, you had to push through because some people wouldn't. Some
Yeah.
people would have just stayed in that position forever.
So Ricky, let me get you the backstory on what led up to my son's suicide. Okay. Because I
Okay,
share
yeah.
this publicly because so many people, um, are probably guilty of making the same choices that I was that impacted my son's life. Okay. You'll often hear people say they have no regrets.
Mm,
I've got a ton of regret. What I always say
mhm,
is, as discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons. Do Would I be who I am today without those bad choices? Absolutely not. Okay.
yeah.
But I
Yep.
don't feel good about hurting people and impacting
Mhm,
people's lives, especially my son. So what I always say is I don't want to forget about who I used to be because when we forget things, we get complacent and it'll creep up
yep.
on us.
Mhm,
So I keep the regret near me as a guideline of where to never return. So I'm somebody that it's not that I obsess over who I used to be, but I keep it near me to keep from getting complacent. So Ricky, I was that father for I swore that I would never treat my son the way that my dad did me, my biological father. And like I said, he wasn't a bad man, but his priority was substance use. He was an alcoholic.
uh-huh,
I ended up treating my son the same way because that's what I knew. Um, it's a poor excuse, but that was the reality of it. Okay, I was a father that would always tell my son, "I love you more than life. I do anything for you." But my conduct proves that I was a liar. Okay, for most of his life, substance use, criminal activity, other substance users, my stuff. That was my priority. I would also prioritize other women and their kids above my own son to gain
mhm,
to gain their validation. Okay, to gain their love.
mhm,
The reason I'm saying that is because the message I sent to my son was these people overhear me more than spending time with you. Am I solely responsible for my son's suicide? No. But did I impact his mental health in a lot of ways? 100%. So the reason I share that with people publicly is to let them know, hey, listen, if you're doing these same things, this is a possible consequence of it. This is the risk you're taking by, you know, shitting on your kid their entire life. You're affecting their mental health. So the way we treat people matters. So that's what I mean by that.
yeah, absolutely.
And I got off track about your question. What was it again?
The question was just, because you've been through a lot of the
Yeah.
struggle. So, what was the deciding factor for you to change?
Oh, hands down, my wife, meeting her. Um, she's a huge part of my story. When Julie and I met, I had done lost everything. I had 3 changes of clothes in my name, and that was it. I was staying at this place called the CSC Center. It's a community supervision center in Poplar Bluff, Missouri, and it's like jail, but you can leave and go to work. Um, while I was there, I was working at a factory. Long story short, I couldn't stay sober at this factory. I was still using. I got fired on the spot for dirty urine. I go back to the CSC center and, I ended up going to a rescue mission. Okay. And this rescue mission, it was more structured, more faith based. They had better food. They had workout equipment, just things that appealed to me. Well, I go to this rescue mission. Like I said, I had 3 changes of clothes. I had, no money, unemployed, homeless, broke, buried in, everything you could think of. I was not a catch by any stretch of the imagination. While I was there, I was going to a class down the street, and I happened to cross paths with Julie one day. We struck up a conversation, and man, just meeting her changed everything for me. She believed in me. She saw something in me that I didn't see, and it motivated me to be the best possible man that I could be. And she, thank God that I met her at that time, because my son took his life soon after. It was probably about a year or so after that. If I wouldn't have been with my wife, you wouldn't be talking to me today, for sure. So, meeting Julie was a godsend for me. She was somebody that she loved me enough to hold me accountable. She would tell me the things I didn't want to hear but need to hear out of love. And like I said, when I say I learned to be a man through her, to be a respectable man, to be somebody that I would respect, I learned it through her. And
Wow.
and Ricky, let me say, my biological father and my stepfather were not bad people. My stepdad
Hmm.
is a good man, but
Yeah.
there's things that I was way behind the curve on, as far as how to be responsible, respectful, uh, a good man.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So in that, so when you share that, it makes me think too about how important, and it's funny because this is your mission too, is it shows how impactful one person can be through not even knowing it, right? Just through connection and community.
Absolutely. What I always tell people is, a lot of people refer to me as saving lives. I don't save lives. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing the work.
Yeah.
I just plant seeds of hope. And just, like I said, when I say connection saves lives, that's what I mean by that. You're doing the work. I'm just sharing with you, how I got through it. This is a quote that I live by. The most effective form of leadership is the manner in which we choose to lead ourselves. Our words are who we aspire to be. Our conduct proves who we truly are. Okay. So I'm not this loud, confrontational, controversial, vocal I don't have to be this loud person. My conduct speaks for me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's what matters in the end. That's
It's
what
so
people,
true.
that's what people see. Like,
Yeah.
like your dad. Your dad's not a loud person, but
Mm-hmm.
his demeanor, his conduct, everything about him speaks, it's loud. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean by that.
Absolutely. And it's funny because in my line of work, so it's learning and development. So it's like teaching leadership and leadership development, et cetera, in the workplace, which is different form. But it's funny because you can see how that shows up in that space too. Is like people wonder why, and time again, why aren't they listening, or why aren't they following instruction? You realize when you get down to it, it's like you can say whatever you want, but they're going to pay attention to your actions. And if
Yes.
you're acting in a different manner than what you expect, then go figure.
Yeah. Like I said, this is what I always tell people, Ricky. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a physically active guy. Gym.
Mhm.
I stay in shape. I care about
Uh-huh.
my appearance and how I present myself. I could not go into these prisons, these jails, or speak in front of a high school, or go speak to a group of Marines or people that's in the military. If I step in front of them looking undisciplined, out of
Uh-huh.
shape, and like I don't care about myself, my impact is going to be minimal. They'll see right through me. I can't talk about
Mhm.
discipline if I'm not living it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's very
Exactly.
shallow. That's so. Like
Exactly.
I said, we're on the same page with that. Your conduct is what people. That's what they see. And if you hold yourself to a standard like that, you don't have to say a lot.
Exactly. 100%. Okay. So now, what are you currently going through that's positive or negative?
Positive. Well, recently I was appointed to the board of the Mental Health Association of South Mississippi. I've been appointed to 2 boards in the past 6 years. I was appointed to a state committee in North Carolina I think he was the previous Speaker of the House, Mr. Tim Moore. I served on that committee for 2 years, and I just got appointed to this board about a month ago. And to most people, it may not be a big deal, but to me, yeah, I'm a 3-time convicted felon. When I
Uh-huh.
go to these meetings or sit on these committees, I don't have a college degree. I don't have the same experience as these people, but I have a wealth of life experience. To be able to go to these meetings, to be heard, my voice or my word is respected and valued. That means a lot to me. It's something I take very serious. So that's something pretty recent. That's a positive. At the end of October, I'll be traveling to Southeast Missouri, where I'm speaking at 9 different venues. Or hold on, 9 different venues in 5 days. It'll be eight high schools, and then the prison in Bonne Terre. This is for Red Ribbon Week.
Uh-huh.
That's a positive. Obviously driving, that's been a big deal. So as far as negative, brother, I'm a work in progress forever.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, I I don't want to say negative, but I seek to grow all the time, and my wife and I
yeah.
have a relationship. We're big on open communication,
Uh-huh.
and that at times that can be very uncomfortable. Just having
Uh-huh.
somebody to say, having somebody to hold you accountable to say things that you may not want to hear but need to hear because they love you. They
Uh-huh.
want to see you grow and protect you. Like I said, my wife is a therapist. She's a clinician, so she can see a lot of things in me that I
Uh-huh.
can't see. That can lead to some uncomfortable conversations at times, and I don't like. I
Yeah.
may not like to hear it, but I'm at a point in my life now where I'm humble enough to take a step back and be like, I can see her point, and I improve through that. So yeah, that's it's not a negative, but it can be a little painful at times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And congratulations, by the way, on all
Thank
those
you.
positive things. That's a
Yeah.
lot of good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. And
There's
then,
probably some more in there, but and Ricky, that's a great question because the other day, um, I struggle with gratitude at times and seeing
mm,
and I was having an off day, uh, in my, pitying myself, that kind of stuff, a bunch of garbage.
mhm.
And, if you'd have told me this would have worked, I wouldn't have believed it. But my wife and I we're sitting at the same table I'm sitting at, and she said, "So what are you grateful for today?" And, I started going through the list, and bro, about a minute into the conversation, I kind of forgot about all the negative that
Uh-huh.
was weighing on. It actually worked. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's funny how that works. I started doing journaling a few years ago, and I learned it from this journaling group. And part of the journaling thing is actually gratitude. And same thing, like I didn't most of the stuff that I did as far as journaling, I was like, I don't know how much, I'll do it. I'll
Yeah.
do it. But you're right. It's like the moment you start doing that, because I'm the exact same way as and you're probably like this too. You're an achiever type, I assume, where you want to get things done, you want to grow, you want to accomplish. And what happens is a lot of times we get stuck in this rut where we are constantly trying to push, where we forget to think about where we are. So we have those moments, and we're like, oh man, I haven't done anything. I'm just in this place. And then when you're
Mhm.
like, hold on, go back, look at your gratitude journal, look back, like, oh, okay. So I've done all these good things. And then also part of that journaling is actually keeping track of those things you're working towards.
Yep.
So every time you do that, you look back like, oh yeah. I mean, if I
Yep.
think about 6 months ago to where I was to where I am now, like, let's stop, take a breath, and like actually celebrate, because that's a tough thing
Yeah.
for us to do
I'm
sometimes.
I'm guilty of being, comparison is a thief of joy.
Yep.
I struggle with that. I'm the 99 and one guy. I'll have 99 things going right, and I'll focus on the one thing that
Yep.
not going my way. And Ricky, this is something else. I uh I network a lot. I'm sure, as sure as you do. And
Hmm.
if I was to receive every single invitation that I seek out, I couldn't keep up. But it never
Hmm.
feels good to be like, we're not interested or feel like you're being ignored or overlooked. But
Hmm.
what usually happens for me is like with what I do with speaking, like I work another part time job at a health and wellness facility. I do a lot of cold plunges and sauna and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But speaking is that's my other thing. But with speaking, like I may go a month or two with very little momentum, and I'm close to quitting. Like
Mhm.
I'm not doing this
Mm.
anymore. I'm tired
Yep.
of it. And it's like every time that I about quit, I'll take one more step. Then I'll have 11 sessions in a month. It's kind of that. But the key is to standing firm and trusting the process, having faith. That's the hard part. But like I said, if God blessed me with every single invitation that I thought I wanted, I couldn't do it. So I just the way I look at it is I'm where I'm meant to be at, and I have to remind myself of that a lot of times.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you hit a good point there. It's like you plateau and it works like that in everything.
Yeah.
Working out, you can apply it to anything. We hit that plateau part and you have, yeah, those two decisions. You can either decide to like, you know what, this isn't working out, I'm done, or you can push just a little further
Yeah.
and then yeah, like you said, it just opens up. It's wild.
So Ricky, this is the way what we're talking about
Mhm.
balance. I get
Yep.
contacted by families a lot that are struggling with a multitude of, a child lost to overdose, homicide, about everything you can think of.
Yeah.
And they're always asking me like, how do you deal with grief? And this is kind of relates to what we're talking about balance.
Uh-huh.
What I always frame it as, it's like riding a wave of emotion without letting yourself get too high or too low. What I say is like when you're riding high, everyone's congratulating you, patting you on the back. They're there for
Uh-huh.
you. We're so proud of you. If you need anything, let us know. The winning is the easy part. What happens when we're riding high like that, we tend to get complacent, and that's
Uh-huh.
when we stop doing what's working. That's when the enemy attacks. When we get too low, a lot of times we get to this place of self pity and desperation.
Yep.
That's when we seek out instant gratification, food, narcotics,
Mhm.
love, whatever that might be. That's also when the enemy attacks. So what I talk about is just trying to stay balanced without getting too high and getting too low. So I have to be reminded of that often as well.
Yeah. It's funny. That's like a biological mechanism too. So, I was listening to this podcast. I don't know. Do you listen to Andrew Huberman at all?
The name sounds familiar, but I'd have to look
Yeah.
him up.
So he's a neuroscientist, but he had someone on the call that was talking about brain development. He's talking about like the pain and pleasure center, how they're in the same location in the brain. And what happens is your body's always trying to reach homeostasis.
Yeah.
So basically what's happening is like for every amount of pleasure you get, you're going to have the opposite reaction in pain essentially. So your body naturally is going through that same state because what it's trying to do is get to balance.
Mm-hmm.
So, and to that point, that's how they talk about how addiction happens is because you hit that high and and you don't want to go low. So you keep hitting that high, hitting that high. And then what happens is that can mess up the receptors in your brain to where then it's very, very difficult to even reach your baseline of
Right.
homeostasis and you start reaching below. So it's just funny to think, and that listening to that specific thing helped me out a lot with thinking like, oh, when I'm having like down moments, this is normal.
Yeah.
And it was super helpful.
And Ricky, it's something that I'm in regards to what we're talking about. I always refer to it as a comfortable misery. Okay. And a lot of people,
Hmm.
because you'll hear people say like, whether it's an abusive relationship, somebody who's in addiction, somebody who keeps going back to prison. It
Uh-huh.
might be a job that you hate, or somebody who's in the military and they're getting out. A lot of times on the outside looking at these environments, it looks very toxic and it looks insane, and it might very well be.
Uh-huh.
But the more time you spend inside of it, you develop these skills and tools to help you to survive, and you become good at it. The thought of the thought of transitioning to a new environment, there's a fear of the unknown. It can be
Uh-huh.
overwhelming, and we doubt our abilities. So that's why a lot of people will stay where they're at. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It
So
makes sense.
yeah.
That makes sense. Absolutely.
Next question. What we got?
Okay, here we go. So, who is someone who's changed your life that doesn't know it?
Oh wow. Well, the people that have, they're aware. Man, how'd I put this? There's a well known life coach, public speaker. He's now very controversial, but when he came out, he had a lot of great gems that I've utilized in my life. His name's Wes Watson. Okay. I followed him from the beginning of when he was released from prison. And I still occasionally catch a little bit of what he does. Like I said, right now he's he's changed a lot. not for the better. Okay. He's in a
Mhm.
lot of, turmoil right now,
Yeah.
but in the beginning, his content and his words and his approach, it impacted my life in a lot of positive ways. But um, there was a time that I found myself chasing money, kind of the same path that
Mhm.
he was on. Thankfully, I have a wife that will point it out to me. And which she did. She's like, "Listen, Ricky, this
Mhm.
guy's he's impacting you in a negative way," and it was. But he's somebody that impacted my life as far as his content.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. It reminds me of this book I read too. I read this book by Ryan Holiday called Ego is the Enemy.
Yes.
And they talked about something similar like that. It's like a lot of things start off virtuous or start off with good intent and
Yes.
then can be corrupted with time. So it makes me think how sometimes that happens is where it starts off with good intent and then the more you're in it, before you know it, it can be
Yeah.
corrupted with power or greed or whatever it might be.
What the benefit that I've took from that is, just through guidance of my wife, I'm better equipped now with people to take the positive, take the gems, and
Hmm.
toss out the rest, man. Because like I
Yeah.
said, there was he has good points, but
Hmm.
yeah, it's just you have to be mindful of not to veer too far off path when
For sure.
or get consumed with it.
Yeah, no, agreed. And I think that's the power in free thinking is being able to take and discern the information that you get from people rather than just embody who that person is. I
Yeah,
think some people do that, but I think when you can like, okay, I like this, I like this. I don't necessarily agree here. Okay, perfect. And be able to do that. I think that's a power.
yeah. It's like like I'm not a I see people as people. I'm not like somebody that gets caught
Hmm.
up on celebrity or
Yep.
I don't idolize people.
Hmm.
I may respect their abilities and their talents, but I'm not somebody that's like, oh my God, Ricky McDowell. I don't. I'm a. I respect. I'm a. You know. I respect you as a man. That's just the way that I'm
Yeah.
not going to treat you different because I treat the janitor the same as I would the CEO
Hmm.
of a company, and that's one of the that's a reason that I've been able to network and connect with a lot of people. I have the confidence and the belief in myself where I can communicate up here and down here, and I've done it. I worked in community
Hmm.
outreach for a long time, so I have the ability to get on. I think any level. So
Like that. Yeah, I agree 100%.
yeah.
Agreed. Okay, so next question. So what's a skill or talent you can teach us?
Um, I don't want to say a skill or talent, but like I said, that's what I just shared with you. I
Uh,
think that I have the ability to network and connect with most
mhm.
anyone, and
Yeah.
it's not because it's something I try to do. I'm a authentic, real person. I have an approach of empathy and compassion, but also accountability as well. I treat people the way that I want to be treated.
Hmm.
So, I think I can communicate, and I'm a good listener. That's to me, if you the most beneficial part of communicating is being able to listen and seek to understand before responding. Um, like I said, I never saw myself being a public speaker, and like I said, I've spoken hundreds of times. I don't think that I'm the most gifted. I know I'm not the most talented or the most eloquent, but I'm just authentic and real with who I am. And I don't know. I don't know if that's a gift or something that you can teach, but it's just it took a lot of humility and a commitment to that to get there.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it goes back to that point of like people remember how you make them feel. And
Exactly.
when you ask people questions and you seek to understand, you give people a good feeling,
Yeah.
right? Rather, because you've been in those positions where
Mhm.
people have lectured you, you
Yeah.
don't listen,
Yeah.
you know? But the minute they ask and they want to know, it's like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, let me tell you. And I think that's powerful. Yeah.
In regards to what you said, a
Yeah.
quote that I shared publicly is
Yes.
the true measure of a man is the way that we make people feel when we leave their presence. So
Hmm.
I try to always remember that. And and Ricky, with me, I travel and I'm around a lot of people. I can never have an off moment. I can never like if somebody approaches me, I cannot have this like I don't want to talk to you right now. It's I never can do that. So I
Hmm.
have to I have to operate at a high level all the time, and it can be a mental, physical, and spiritual it takes me a while to decompress. Put it like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you can relate to that in your field.
Yes,
Yeah,
I can. There's been plenty of moments where I enjoy it and I love being on all the time and
yeah,
connect with this. But there's a moment where after 3 or 4 days straight, it's
yeah,
like I'm back at the hotel or I'm back home. Like I just want to rest and relax and
yeah,
decompress and just let it all go because it's tough to do. No matter how much you feel like you can do it or how much energy you have or how extroverted you may be, you gotta take some time.
yeah. Like, excuse me, like when I go to Missouri at the end of October, I'm going to be speaking twice a day, every day but one. It'll probably take me a week to decompress after that. Like I mean, my
Hmm.
body will go through this like just um. I probably what usually happens is like I'll decompress. I'll probably cry afterwards. I mean, just
Mm.
I'll be sitting there. But what happens is, man, for twice a day, I'm talking about trauma nonstop. Plus, I'm going to be answering questions about other people's trauma to carry that and
Hmm.
do that. I got to do that repeatedly. So after a while, man, it'll get to you, you know?
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what's something you're learning about currently that you can teach us?
What I'm learning about currently. Let me
Hmm.
see. Um, Probably myself. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I don't read a lot of books. You know, I do
Hmm.
listen to a lot of information on, YouTube and things like that. I'm on a constant path of personal development.
Hmm.
I guess that's the best way to put it. I'm constantly learning about myself. Um, there's really not one specific subject I can sit here and say that I could teach someone.
Hmm.
I'm more of a watch me, just pay
Hmm.
attention. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah.
that probably being on that board on the committee I mentioned earlier. That's
Hmm.
like I don't want to say I'm a fish out of water, but the people that I'm surrounded by are like attorneys, doctors. They're all
Hmm.
like they have degrees. They're on a very professional, what's seen as a professional level. So I learned through all of them. I'm not the best at like you know documentation and analytics and graphics. I'm more of a boots on the ground, feet in the
Hmm.
fire. Point me to the fire, and we'll take care of it. I'm that guy. So I'm learning through all them.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, and I'm the same way when it comes to so in the field, doing learning and development. Like if probably and you might not know, but where a lot of stuff's going is a lot of teaching is going virtual or digital or self-guided learning, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But just like everything else, we're losing the ability to connect with people, and I don't think people realize that. Like when
Oh
I
yeah,
got this job and I applied for it in this position, I told them right away, it's like, are you guys experiencing people not doing the work? Yeah, of course. Well, it's because you're giving them self-guided things, and what people are going to do is they're going to take the easy road. So they're going to go through all the questions till it's done, and they retained no
yeah,
information. So what you have to do is you actually have to have an in-person person, like somebody there, bring them in and actually take them through stuff that's going to get them to the learning piece.
yeah,
And it's something. It's like it's starting to become a lost art. Like I look at all these businesses, and everybody's like, "Oh, we need to bite-size everything. We need to put everything into 15-minute increments so they can understand information." It's like that's not really how it works. If you are engaging enough with information, people are going to want to spend hours with you.
hmm
It's not about that. It's about the information that you're giving
yeah.
people. And yeah, it's just something I see all the time.
And Ricky, something to add to your question. I don't like to. I don't. I never like to refer to myself as being I'm good at this or something.
Hmm.
I don't put myself in that
Yeah.
category. But something that I feel confident doing and I feel purposeful doing because I feel effective at it is like I'm contacted by people often with questions in regards to, like I said, substance use, their family struggling, death, tragic deaths. What I always say is you don't have to be a therapist to be therapeutic. It's being
Hmm.
present, being willing to listen without a bias
Yep.
or judgment. So, like, say if you contacted me and you were like, "Hey, Ricky, um, can I talk to you about this? I got to ask you a question." I think I have the ability to be share an honest perspective without being judgmental. And
Yeah.
I think I have a pretty good. I think I have a good, decent ability to discern. So I'm always going to share with you an honest perspective out of love. I'm not going to mislead you with false hope or
Hmm.
unrealistic expectations. So I think I have a pretty good ability on how to read those situations.
Yeah. I like that. It's a good skill to have.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what are you doing for fun?
For fun, man,
Mm-hmm.
Ricky. I talked to my wife about this today. We both
Uh-huh.
did. I've taken life very serious for a long time, and
Uh-huh.
I know that I need to. Here's an example. When I was in Springfield this past weekend, my daughter, my stepdaughter, she has these filters on her phone, and it makes your face look. Bro, I laughed for
Yeah.
20 minutes, man. And I told my wife, I was like, I can't remember like the last time I actually was that look, that
Uh-huh.
loose. My my life, my wife and I, we're very structured people, very routine.
Uh-huh.
We're very driven. We're about the next step, what's next. So I've got caught up in that for a long time, and it's not always been a good thing.
Uh-huh.
I know I need to take a step back and probably work on that. So as far as having fun, I enjoy serving people. That's when I feel the most purposeful. That's
Uh-huh.
when I feel the most peace. I'm a gym guy. I'm at the gym every morning
Uh-huh.
by 3 a.m. That's my wife and I's start of the day. But we like the beach, stuff like that. We like enjoying new food or eating good food. Um, and the thing is the when I do take the time to have fun or find something that I enjoy, um, it's a reminder of I need to do it more. You know,
Uh-huh.
because life will go fast, man. And at the end, I don't. I read a quote that said, um, one of the most basically it was one of the most painful things you'll ever experience is having regret when you're about to die, and I don't want to be that guy. So yeah,
Yeah. No, I agree. Two things that I want to follow up with on that. So one, there's always this regret topic I love chatting about. So I heard this person say on this podcast once, and I resonated big time with it, is it's not about going through life with no regrets. It's about going through life choosing the regrets that you can live with.
yes,
So it's like because we're all going to have regrets because
hmm
sometimes there's decisions like you make this one, you're going to regret to do this one. You do this one, you're going to regret this one. But you have to figure out, well, which one am I willing to live with?
yeah,
And I think that's an important thing to think about.
yeah. Like for
And
me, like I
then
said,
yeah,
I wouldn't be who I am without making all these tragic, terrible choices. I wouldn't be
yeah,
that. So I'm big about having remorse because I've seen people say I don't have any
uh-huh,
regrets, and I'm like, you're kind of telling your victims you don't have remorse. I try to
uh,
find that balance of,
yeah,
look, I wouldn't be here because without this, but I don't feel good about doing this either. It's not something that I'm like, yeah, I'm proud of this.
yeah, absolutely. And then yeah, the other piece of it is I insert this question because it's lighthearted, but as adults especially, we forget to have fun.
Oh yeah,
And you think about it, when we were kids, like we saw life through different lenses sometimes,
mhm,
right? Like we played, nobody was a stranger. And I think as we get older, we tend to forget about that when really we're all kids.
yeah,
We have age to us now, but we forget
mhm,
to play. And I think you can learn so much through just play. You can learn a lot about the world, about life, about people. You can connect. It's something we don't do enough. And I think we disguise some things as play, like going to the bars or doing all
yeah,
this stuff. And it's like, I don't know if that's really play, but like just going out and playing frisbee or going out and doing an escape room or, just those things like, I don't know. We forget to do that sometimes. I
yeah.
think it's a really important thing to
No,
check ourselves on.
Ricky, the thing is, man, is I'm pretty much the same person on and off of social media at all times. Like I'm who I say
Hmm.
that I am, and like I said, I live a very structured routine.
Uh-huh.
I have a demeanor of professionalism all the time, and I've gotten a habit of being that. So, I'm having to, like I said, I've got to work on
Uh-huh.
unwinding some things. You know what I mean? Rewiring some things
Yeah,
because I'm
of
guilty.
course. Yeah.
I'm guilty of thinking if somebody sees me do this, they're going to think I'm that, and all the craziness. So, but yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because like about my wife and I, we literally talked about that a few hours ago.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah. You'll have to keep me updated on the fun stuff you
Yeah,
start doing. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so we've covered a lot of topics today. So this is one of my favorite questions.
yeah.
So if you were to have a story or a book about your life so far, from when you were born to now, what would that story be called?
Oh, easy. The Redemption of Ricky Johnson. That's my present. That's the name of my presentation.
You know what's really interesting about that is for some reason, I never think about this ahead of time. I never think about what people are going to say for their story.
Uh-huh.
But just like 30 minutes before we started on, I was like, I kind of wonder what story he's gonna pick for this. And for some reason, the word redemption did
Yeah.
pop in my head, which is really interesting.
Yeah. Where that came from was it's been probably I was living in Asheville, North Carolina. That's where my career began at, was in Asheville, North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
KFES 12 News from Southeast Missouri. Her name's Kathy Sweeney. She done a story over my life, which it won the I think it's Edward R. Murrow Award for Journalism, and it was nominated for a regional Emmy. Well, they named it the Redemption of Ricky Johnson. So
Wow.
that's how that started. So I've just used it on my presentations, and I've kept it like that.
Wait, so did you say this was like a film?
It was like a 5-minute segment on the news. It's a 2-part
Oh,
series.
okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
I traveled from North Carolina to what it was I was on the news a couple times in my past for, drug charges.
Hmm.
Well, you never see the redemption, the other side of it.
Yeah.
Why does I happen to contact Kathy Sweeney, you kind of just throwing it out there just to see if she'd respond, and she did. And they, my wife and I went down there, and they filmed me at the graveyard where my son is buried, throughout the area at the jail, and that kind of elevated my career. And she, like I said, she done a little quick story about my life, and I just kept that name, the Redemption of Ricky Johnson.
That's awesome. Do you have that video?
I can send you the link.
Okay,
Yeah.
sweet. That's cool. I like that. I'd love to see that. Okay, so we only got two things left. So this part of the segment is just for you to share whatever you want. So it could be you can answer anything that maybe we haven't talked about yet. You can promote your business, your social, whatever you want to do. This is like your time to just share and market whatever you want.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me on tonight. Like I
Uh,
said, Ricky, a big part. The thing for me is like I'm when I'm serving other people, when I'm sharing wisdom, when I'm doing these type of things. This is when I'm at my best. This is when I'm at the most peaceful, most
uh,
purposeful, and I feel the happiest probably. So thank you for doing this. These are my reasons for why. On the days that I struggle with wondering if this is what I'm supposed to be doing, or is this the right path? So when I get to do this stuff and talk just about life, it's a reminder of that. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So yeah, guys, I have a nonprofit that's called the Simple Relentless Project, and that's basically just what I do with public speaking. Like I said, I travel throughout the country speaking with law enforcement, prisons, jails, high schools, trainings, conferences. If you're listening to this and you ever need a speaker for an event, a group, I can travel or I can speak virtually. I would love to give you my time. My presentations are usually about an hour in length. I'll speak for 35 minutes. I'll answer questions from the audience. What I always do for my presentations is when I go to the prisons or with the military or high schools, I'll end with a push-up competition. They'll do push-ups against me for 1 minute. Even if I win, I bring like I'm going when I go to Bon Terre in Missouri. I think that we're going to have it's like 300 or 400 offenders going to be in attendance, and I'm going to bring a candy bar for each one of them. The wardens let me do that, so people donate money to me to be able to make that happen. So I'm going to do a push-up competition. If I win or if they win, I still bring them that candy bar. I also purchase gift cards if I go when I go to the high schools or the treatment facilities. The purpose of that push-up competition is, if you've listened to this podcast, I talk about a lot of heavy stuff that can be very triggering. Okay, so I want to end on a positive note, but in the process, I'm encouraging them to compete, to get vulnerable, put yourself out there, because for me, I learned to win through losing. That's just what it comes down to. And what I tell people is strength is not a miracle. It's not something that falls into your lap like it's magic. You got to go through something difficult, overcome that. You're going to gain confidence from it, and it's going to prepare you for that next test. So that's the purpose of that push-up competition when I do that.
Yeah. You know what? It's another thing we have in common. Push-ups. So I'll
Yeah.
tell. So this thing is funny. People used to tease me about it, but here I'll tell you the story. So I worked with Nike for like 16 years. So I worked there a long time. But what I would do is I was for the last half, so 8 years of that, I was in training and development. So I'd go from store to store and I teach different things, leadership development, just whatever. Sometimes it was just how to serve people, etc. And one way I would motivate people is by doing push-ups.
Yep.
So it was one of those things like, okay, for every person's name you can get, or every person you talk to, whatever, I'll give you 5 to 10 push-ups, right?
Yep.
We'd start there. It just depended on how big the team was, how good they were, because you can only do so many
Yeah.
in one day. And you would be surprised at how people performed when they were giving you push-ups.
Yeah.
And it was wild. It was fun to see. But yeah, I would do that. And it's funny because people would always say like, well, Ricky's doing push-ups again. And it's like, but look at that. The days I'm in store with the teams are
Yeah.
their best days where people are serving people the most. They're giving it their all. They're performing. And it's like, all I did, and guess what, is free. It was
Yeah.
just push-ups.
Yeah. That what people always ask me when I do these push-ups. They're like, "Have you been beat?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've been beat multiple times. But I'm not going to let you win. You got to beat me, you know." But yeah, it's something I've been doing that for the past few years, and it's always a big hit when I go wherever I speak at. Like when I go to these treatment facilities here in the area, I'll bring a $200 gift card. There's usually like 20 people in the facility, and I'll bring a gift card where they can buy a meal of their choice for that night. So that's a big deal
Yeah.
among in those groups as well. So like I said, people donate money to me to help make that happen. So that's the purpose of my nonprofit. But yeah, guys, you can find me on Facebook as Ricky Johnson Jr. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram as well. I don't have all the answers about life, but you can always contact me if you have a question. I won't mislead you with a lie or false hope. I'm going to give you an honest perspective out of love because I care and I want to see you grow, but I also want to protect you as well.
Okay. Love it. Okay, so this is the last question. So how this one works is we had the last guest that was on create a question for you.
Yep.
So this is one you didn't get to prepare for, which is awesome. So you get to answer it on the spot, and then you get to create a question for the next future guest, not knowing who it's going to be. So the question is, if you could describe yourself in a single word, what would it be?
Resilient.
Okay, why?
Why?
Yeah.
Man, I'm the kind of person that you got to take the life out of my body before I quit. Now, the fact I'm here today is proof of that. Um, Considering what I've gone through by life happening or by my own hand, making bad choices, I didn't get here by luck. That's for sure. You know, God had a plan for my life, but I also had to put in the work. I'm a very gritty, resilient person. I've persevered my whole life. I don't say that as like I don't say that as like I'm a victim, but I've been through some shit, and I consider myself to be a resilient person.
Okay, I like it. Okay, now what question do you want to leave the next guest?
What is your why?
Okay, and what is your why?
What is my why? I got to remind myself of that often. My why is to be the man that I once needed and to be the man that my son deserved. That alone holds me accountable in a multitude of areas to leave the world in a better place, help some people along the way.
I like it.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. So what I like to do with these questions is every 10 episodes, what I do is I go through and I answer the guest questions.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep them on board. So I'm not going to answer this now, but when it gets to, I think you are going to be episode, I think 46. When we get to 50, then I'll go back through, from 40 to 50 and we'll, I'll answer all these questions myself. So
Awesome.
it'll be cool. Okay. Well, that's all I had, Ricky. So thank you so much for hopping on here. It's awesome hearing your story, and I'm just glad that you volunteered to hop on here
Yeah.
with me. That's awesome.
Hey, brother, I'm honored to spend an hour with you. I respect you. I admire what you do. Your family's been great to me, and I'm always anytime that I can give back to you guys. I'll do that. So thank you for having me on.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for hopping on. So, any final words to the audience before we close out?
Um, yeah, I'll leave you with something.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave you with the closing statement of my presentation. Something very cliche. To have what you've never had before, you must be willing to do what you've never done. You've got to go where other people aren't and do what they're not. Inaction breeds fear and doubt. When fear is present, genius is suppressed. Overanalysis leads to paralysis. If you have a vision or a goal, the most important step is the very first step. You don't have to be great from the beginning, but you must begin to become great.
Yeah, that's powerful. Okay. That's the best close off I think I've had to one of these episodes. So I appreciate that.
I've done it about 500 times, so
Well, there we go. Yeah, okay. Well, cool. Well, I'm sure this won't be the last time, so we'll stay in touch,
yeah,
and yeah, I'm sure I'll see you again on an episode.
yeah,
So
brother.
thank you
If
again
you have
for
any,
hopping on here.
if you have any contacts in your area, man, I represent you well. Keep me in mind.
I will absolutely do that.
Okay.
Thank you, Ricky.
Yep.